Welcome to Baker Tech Talk. I'm Mike Baker. I got a request earlier today from a friend of mine in India who said, hey, can you explain how to deal with Fortigate virtual devices in EVE-NG, specifically related to licensing and eval licensing. So it's Sunday night. I need a shower and a shave, but I want to get this out, so never mind. I'm not quite camera ready, but let's do this. So in this video, we're going to go through the details of, I guess, two parts. One is if you already have a Fortinet Support account, then you may already have access to some of the Fortigate and FortiManager virtual images. So you can just download those, and you'd still have to deal with licensing, but either way, you would have access to them. Or the important thing is you'll need a Fortinet Support account to download images to start with. Based on that account, you're allowed to get one evaluation license for Fortigate, for example. It's sort of a limited version in that it has very weak encryption on it, so you definitely don't want to use it in a production environment. I think you're only limited to 3 interfaces, 3 firewall policies, and 3 routes. So that's going to be quite restrictive. But again, this is for eval purposes, or maybe you just want to get familiar with it. That might be fine for lab use for your purpose. The limitation, and again, I'm speaking about these specifically related to the latest 7.2 and 7.4 versions. So in the video, you'll see I get into, I'll show you everything you need to do to get an eval license working in EVE-NG for version 7.2 and the latest 7.4. I believe, I don't have it handy and I'm not going to go through that right now, that if you use the 7.2.0 or earlier versions, my recollection was that if you use those in EVE-NG, when you first start the VM, it'll show it has a time limit. I think it was about 2 weeks. That it's fully featured. Maybe it's not fully featured. Anyway, right out of the box, there's no registration needed on 7.2.0 and earlier, I believe. So if that suits your purpose, you don't need the later features, then maybe that's easier to deal with because, well, one, you won't have to do any registration with Fortinet. And secondly, you'll be able to have more than one virtual device with a license. Again, if you want to have modern 7.2 or 7.4 and an eval license, you're going to need more than one Fortinet account to do that. And again, I don't know, that's maybe not practical or good for the long term, or maybe you have, if you really want to evaluate this stuff, I suggest that you contact Fortinet, like an account manager or account team, or Fortinet directly, and say, hey, I want to do a proof of concept or something. I'm thinking about purchasing for a purpose. I need a proof of concept. Can you grant me some evaluation licensing, fully featured evaluation licensing? And it's been my experience that works. And that will be, I'll say in my experience, it was 60 days or less, and for a number of virtual devices. So they'll give you, if you really need to do an evaluation, then certainly contact the Fortinet account team. If you're just playing around in the lab, then you can probably get away with what I'm going to describe today. All right, so let's get on with it. Thanks. All right, so we want to get some Fortinet images, software images like Fortigate, for example, or FortiManager. We'll have to start by logging into support at Fortinet. If you have an account, an existing account, you can log in and go that route. We're going to choose to create an account because I think most people, that'll be the situation. So the account email, I'm going to just choose an email. Let's do this. create an account. Here comes the CAPTCHA. So we're looking for chicken feet. Here's chicken, chicken, chicken. Next, chicken, chicken, cats. There we go. So they're going to send me an email. I'll watch for that email now. All right, I have the code. The code is E70. Next. Okay, so now they're going to ask me to create a password. I'll choose something here. Yeah, let me choose something else. Passwords don't match. What? Here we go. Let's next. Okay, we'll save that one away. Okay, login credentials created. Now we got to fill in all this. All right, so we'll agree to, call our lawyer and read all this. Let's go. All right, so I've now registered. Let's try it. All right, so they say they've emailed me. So I've received an email in the meanwhile confirming that an account was created, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that's just to say, welcome, thanks for registering. I'm now waiting for a security code to come for this last login attempt.
2 very boring minutes later.
All right, I've been waiting for a little while. I still never got an email with a security code, and this has happened to me before. I'm not sure how to proceed, but in the email, the welcome email, I also received a note about if you need to reset your password, click here. So then there's a link in there. I will try that now. Okay, so we're going to change the password. Okay, password reset, login again. Let's try this. So now I just got an email from customer support at Fortinet saying the password has changed. Let's try and log in. So I will now use the new password. One moment. So we'll say update the password because clearly the browser knows that the password was different. Here we are again at the input security code. Now I got the token. So not sure why this happens, but this has happened to me before. 572649, go. Okay, so now we've logged in and we want to go get some code. So for example, why don't we go grab, let's go to firmware download. We're going to look for Fortigate options. Firmware images, and nothing is available. Okay, sorry, you don't have any product covered by a Fortinet Support contract. That is true, but I thought I could get an evaluation license. All right, I realized where I've gone wrong. When we click on firmware images for firmware download, we end up here, which of course we don't have any covered products. We want the VM images, and under VM image, we find Fortigate by default. Latest versions 747. Let's grab 747 Fortigate. Oh, so we're going to need to choose our platform. So in this platform section, you have all kinds of cloud hosting and such, as well as on-prem hosting like VMware ESX. So for EVE-NG, that's using the KVM function in Linux. So we just want to use, you're going to want to choose the KVM platform. Now, when we look in here for latest versions, we see there's a few different, first of all, there's an upgrade and a new. So for each one, there's two choices. We want the new deployment because we don't have something already running. And then if we look at the name, this says FFW. I'm not sure what that is. Something Fortigate firewall. I don't know. But we want Fortigate. So these FGT are our options. So these two new. We have this one to choose from and this. So we can see this one says ARM64. This one says VM64. So the difference between these two is one is if you're going to run on an ARM-based architecture like... well, I don't know. You can run Linux on ARM, then you would need this version of KVM. We are running on an Intel hardware platform. So, and I think generally EVE-NG runs on Intel. So you're going to want the Fortigate VM64 KVM of whatever flavor you want. And you'll notice this is a zip file. Let's go ahead and download this. Go. So that download is coming in. Meanwhile, let's go get an earlier version also, 747. Let's get 7.2. So 7.2.11 is the latest. And once again, we see FFW, we see FGT, ARM, VM, and then FOS. I'm not sure what that is either, but we know we want the FGT, VM64, KVM, 7.2.11. Let's get that one also. Here it comes. Okay, so if we go look at our downloads now, we will see that the other one's still coming in. So let's watch for that. There, now it's finished. Okay, so let's, we're going to unzip these. So let's just extract right here. Go. And the other one, 7.2 extract, done. All right, so now we've got our, well, if we take a look at what's in here, let's take a quick look. So 7.2.11, in here we see there's a file with the name qcow40os. So we'll talk about that in the next section, how to deal with this. Let's move on then. Let's log into our EVE-NG GUI. We've got 10.6.9.7, I believe. All right, so this will be whatever the GUI username is. So normally it's going to be admin by default, and then whatever password you used. I think if you never changed it, it would still be EVE. I'm going to go with the native console here. Let's sign in. Okay, here we are. Now, we have no lab set up, so we'll just create a new one. Test 1, and that's fine. Save. All right. So the first thing we want to do is we're going to want to create a FortiGate or Fortinet device. If we choose add an object node in this list, we see these are all grayed out. So we see all kinds of vendors, all kinds of devices. If we just start typing Forti, we see there's Fortinet Fortigate. So we'll choose, well, it's grayed out, so it's not an option. Now, why is that? That's because we haven't set up any images to run as virtual FortiGates. So that's that's where we have to start. So that was just to prove that there's nothing there, and that's not even an option. So what I'll do, I think, let's just stay here. We'll leave it, we'll stay in this lab. Now, we'll run off to, let's go to EVE-NG website. I think it's eveng.net, I believe. So what we want to find in here is, there should be some how-tos. Let's go to documentation. Here we go. So we see this how-to video. Oh, actually, wait. I don't know that we want the how-to videos. We want plain old how-tos. I'm not sure. Let's just go. Can we search from somewhere? Search Fortinet. So we should find. There should be a how-to about how to. Let's check this. Oh, here we go. How to create images. So now this is the list we want to find. So let's go down here to Fortinet. So Fortinet images, and this is, yeah, we're looking at this now. So versions this guide is based on, it's all version 6. So these are quite old, since we've been on version 7 now for years. But I'm sure the basics of this are still applicable. So let's see, what do they say? They say go off, find naming of image folder and, okay, obtain the Fortigate image and prepare for EVE. So we're going to end up making a directory. So we're going to have to log into the EVE-NG server itself. So if you recall, here we have the GUI is we're logged in, and in my case it's 10.6.9.7 HTTPS for the GUI. We're going to want to SSH and get a shell on there because we have make directory. These are your typical Linux commands. So we're going to need to get a shell running on that box. So let's do that next. We'll pop over to your favorite SSH client. I have this one set up. And here we are. We're on the, if we look at the address, we can tell this is the same box. Here it is, 10.6.9.7. So this is the same server we have the GUI on. All right, then back to the docs. Let's see what they ask us to do. So they say we're going to need to go to, using the image table, create the correct image folder. Oh, so I guess we are going to need this table. I'm going to choose to open this in a new tab. We'll have this handy here. It is Fortinet FGT image. For our image naming table, we have to create an image starting with Fortinet. So let's do it. All right, so let's come back to the table. Do they? Oh, here we go. So this looks a bit alphabetical. So Fortinet dash something. Oh, Fortinet. Oh, mail. Firewall. Okay, so regardless of what we're going to do, all they're saying is that the naming convention has to has to follow this. Oh, and then here's the other bit. This column, we can see this column says the QMU image QCOW2 name. So this extension .QCOW2, we're going to see that in our KVM image download that we got from Fortinet. But it's going to have a different name before the dot. So what they're telling us here is that in order for it to be recognized, the file name has to start, or the image and or file name has to start with this Fortinet dash, and we're going to end up with this vert IOA file name with the .QCOW2 extension. So that's what they mean here. It's not entirely clear, but you'll see in a moment what we're going to do. So let's go back to this doc. So they're saying we need to go in and build make a directory for the Fortinet stuff under this opt unet lab add-ons QMU. So I'm going to copy this. We're going to go back to the shell. We're going to, why don't we just change directory to go there. I'm going to paste in, just paste it, go. Okay, so here we are, and if we look, there's nothing here. So back to the document for a moment. They're saying create a directory. Okay, and we see that it needs to start with this Fortinet dash, and then we can put whatever else we want after it, I believe. Okay, so we're going to need a directory to put it in. That's fine. All right, let's go do that. mkdir, make directory. It's obviously going to start with, didn't copy. Okay, so Fortinet dash. Then we're going to have to decide what the rest of the name is going to be. Maybe we want to name it by the image. Well, I would say we're going to name it by the image version that we're going to install. So let's take a look at what we downloaded. And where did it go? Oh, come on now. Downloads, here we are. So if we look at what we've downloaded here, so we can see by the beginning of it, whether it's FortiManager or whether it's FortiGate by the FMG or FGT. So we're going to stick with the FortiGate at the moment. We have these, and remember we downloaded two versions. One was a 7.4 version and one was 7.2, the latest of each. Let's start with the 7.2. Now you'll notice these are zip files. Well, by the icon, maybe let's change the view to show us the extension. So here we go. Now we see that these are zip files. I think we should just unzip it here. Yeah, I'm going to go that route. So let's take the 7.2, unzip it. Okay, so now we have this new folder here, which is unzipped. If we look what's in it, here it is, 40 OS QCOW2. And now remember, they said we're going to need to change the beginning of this name to something else. So let's back up a step. And alrighty, we might as well do. Well, let's decide what we want to, what of this name we want to use. So let's maybe take the rest of the version and the build number, copy that, come back to creating our directory name. There it is, and I'm going to go with that. Now if we check, we have a directory with that name. So now we need to drag over that QCOW2 image into this folder. And I think if we opt unet lab, and again, you can use your favorite, probably SCP, secure copy client, to do this. Now, of course, I can just do that right here. When you get to the root, opt Unet Lab, add-ons, QMU. Here's the directory we just created. So let's go there. Now, if we come back to, I should be able to drag and drop our, let's see how this goes. If we open this up, copy this file, come back to here, I'm going to right click and I can't just paste it. Let's try something else then. What I'm going to do is to try to, let's do something like this maybe. I think I can just drag this over here. There we go. See, and then now it just uploaded. So maybe we wanted to rename it first, but here we are. So if now we change the directory to Fortinet LSL, we see we have a file with this name. Now, remember in that doc, they said we need to change the name. Not this document, this one. So for Fortigate, okay, so it says the name needs to be this. So we'll copy that string, come back to here. It might be easier. Of course, we could just name it in the shell, but it might actually be more convenient to rename it right here. Paste. Oh, maybe you can't see that. I just changed the name to that. Now here we go. I'll list it again. Now we see the file name is this. Okay. All right. So with that process done, now if we go back to our GUI, maybe it's recognized that in this lab, I'm going to now choose add a node, start typing Forti, and yeah, see now, well, it's not grayed out, and in fact we can see it turns to a hand, and there's a URL we can follow. So now it's it realizes, because of the naming convention we use, that this is valid. So here we see that's the version we just downloaded and made available. We can give it a name in here, so maybe Fortigate 1 or 7.2. Let's try that. Remember, there's going to be a limitation on CPU and RAM. And I believe it said we could have one CPU and up to 2 gigs of RAM. So let's do that. With 4 Ethernets, I thought the limit was something like 3. Let's try 3. We're going to save. Okay, so now we have a node here. So we have now created one. If we look down at the bottom here, we see that it says the way we're going to access this, and this goes back to, remember at the beginning when we signed into the EVE-NG GUI, we chose to have the native, I think it was called the native scenario. The other was HTML5. Under native, if we want to reach the console of this thing, because again, if we click on it and say start it, we're going to have to get on the console and log in and do some basic configuration before it's accessible or usable. Now, how do we do that? In this case, we can see to get on the console, we're going to do a telnet to 10.6.9.7, and then the port number is 32769. So let's, before I start this thing, because again, we're just going to right click and choose start. I'm going to, let's get connected to it, or as quickly as possible once it starts booting so we can watch the boot sequence. Let's go off to here. We're going to go back to our sessions. Why don't we call this, we'll create a new session. It's going to be telnet. It's going to be 10.6.9.7, because again, this is the EVE-NG host itself. The port was 32769, and we're going to call this, I think we called that thing FG1, so we called it Fortigate 7.2. Okay, so we'll have a bookmark. Here we go. So FG72 is accessible here, and we can see, the connection's refused because until we start that thing, that port 32769 won't be listening until we start that virtual machine in EVE-NG. So let's go back and we'll click start. So we see it's changed to the play symbol. We'll go back to our Telnet client. We're going to do a capital R to restart the session, and now we should see something happen here. There it goes. Yeah. So the thing's booting, and we're now seeing the console output. So there we have a serial number. Okay, and we have the default settings and default login. So if you're familiar with Fortinet equipment, by default, the login is going to be admin with no password, or the password is empty. So you'll still have to hit enter. So we're going to type admin here, enter. Password is nothing. I'm just going to hit enter. Now it's going to force me to change the password. And you have to be quick about this, because if you wait like 15, 30 seconds, it's going to just say there's no one there, and it'll start over again. Oh, see? There we go. Perfect illustration. All right, admin, no password. I'm going to change it. I'm just going to make it admin. Admin. And here we go. So here we are. We're logged into our version. So we can say get sys status if we want to see the version. So in here, we could see we're running a virtual FortiGate with the 64. So this is going to be Intel or AMD architecture with KVM 7.2. All right, now if we look through the rest of this, it's given itself some kind of serial number. It says the license is invalid. VM resources, 1 CPU out of 1 allowed, and 1992 megs of RAM out of 2048 allowed. So we did, we're within the specs. We could have overspec'd it, and of course then I think we'd get a warning here about, oh, you have 2 CPUs but only 1 allowed. So, well, that's that. Now, about this license status. So if you recall, well, we maybe, I think what we're going to get away with here is, well, we'll go back to the documentation and talk about exactly what's going to happen. So, but here we are. We have a running FortiGate on version 7.2 in KVM, or KVM version in EVE-NG. Let's go back to the docs for a moment regarding the licensing. So, permanent trial mode. Okay, so they mentioned, here's the limitations, excuse me, the limitations of this trial version. Again, you don't want to, this should not be on the internet, or you shouldn't have any trust in the security on this thing. This is strictly for evaluation purposes and testing. So they're saying, if you have a newly deployed FortiGate, no longer has a valid eval license, even if the instance is 1 CPU, 2 gigs of RAM, run get system status. This is what we just did. Following output is expected, and this is exactly what we saw. We saw it had a serial number. The status was invalid. We were within specs on the resources. So obtain a permanent trial license from FortiCare. So we can run this command at the command line. So we're going to give it an ID and a password, and then tell it. So I guess what's going to happen at this point is it's going to go out and try to contact Fortinet and register itself, I guess. So the problem we have at the moment is that our FortiManager, or sorry, our FortiGate, the virtual FortiGate in EVE-NG, doesn't have any connectivity to the outside world. In fact, it doesn't even have an IP address currently. So that's going to be problematic, or this won't work immediately. Now, you can run the following commands to check that the permanent VM license. Okay, so once you do that, again, I think I would just run this get system status again, and we should see that the license comes valid. You can also do it this way, and I've never done this CLI version. I've done it this way normally, where to get a permanent trial license, again, you would still need a network connection from the virtual FortiGate in EVE-NG out to the internet. And we can take care of that in a minute, or I'll show you what to do. But the other option would be, instead of getting onto the CLI or the console, you could actually get onto the web interface of that FortiGate. Again, maybe that's a little, well, we still have prep work to do if we're going to do any of those. Allow FortiManager to apply a license. So we don't have any running FortiManager currently. So maybe the best bet in our case will be, let's try this CLI method, but we'll need to get internet access working from EVE-NG. Now, let's come back to the GUI here. So we see here's our node sitting here. There are no, the network isn't connected to anything, and we want to. So let's think back to also the EVE-NG itself has a single network connection physically coming out of the EVE-NG server. It has this address. This address happens to be on a private network, but this private network will get a source NAT out to the internet. So if we manage to get something to go out from here, there's DHCP on this subnet as well. We've statically assigned this the address to the EVE-NG server itself, and that's how we're managing it. But we can bridge one of the interfaces on this FortiGate to the outside using a network connection. So if we come in here under networks, we say we want to add one. We'll call this, I don't know, net's fine. This is going to be a bridge. Now I'm starting to wonder which option I should take here. I'm a bit rusty, or I haven't done this in a while. Maybe bridge is what we want, because I'm thinking we just want to bridge it to the outside network. So let's go with that. We're going to say save. Here's our net. So this is our way out of the virtual world on this box. Now, of course, we need to connect these. And one of the limitations, I can drag this over here and say connect. Well, interesting. It did. I don't know what it did, but I'm sure it didn't actually work. Because on the community edition version, excuse me again, of EVE-NG, you can't establish these network connections while devices are running. So we should shut this down. And it's not problematic if we just stop this. I mean, this would be like pulling the plug on a physical box. Now, should you shut it down orderly? Maybe. We can certainly command that. I just made it admin. Here we go. So execute, I think, shutdown maybe? What do we have for options? Comment, nothing. Okay, I'm just going to say shutdown. We'll do a graceful shut on this. It's going to go down. It'll drop our telnet session because the port's gone. That'll happen sooner or later. There it is. Okay, so halted. It's going to drop. There it is. It's dropped. Now, if we come back to here, we see that the indicator now shows it's stopped. Now, I'm not sure what this has done, but I don't think this connection actually worked. So let's drag it over. Now, see, it's telling us, hey, we want to take the net connection, choose an interface for node 1. Why is it called node 1? I thought we named it something else. All right, anyway, we're going to put it on port 1. So save it away. Now here we go. We see the net is connected to port 1 on this box. I'm going to choose edit. Let's fix the name. I thought we called it FG72. Maybe I missed something. Let's just save it now. Interesting. It still didn't change the name. Not sure why that's not changing, but it doesn't really matter. All right, let's start this up again. Start. We'll come back to the console. Let's reconnect. Here we go. Now, if anything comes over while it's booting, yeah, here it is. This thing should boot up, and we'll set the, maybe, I'm not sure what the state of ETH1 is, or the port 1 is going to be at this point. So let's look. Admin, and show sys and okay, so we see port 1 by default has DHCP enabled on it. So right out of the box, DHCP is enabled on port 1. And as I mentioned, the network we connected it to should have a DHCP server, and we should get an address in the 10.6.9/24 network. Let's see if that's true. Diagnose IP address list. We're going to use this command. Okay, we see we did not get an address. So I'm thinking maybe I chose the wrong option for that network that we added. Okay, so let's just shut this thing. So we're going to do a graceful shutdown again. Yes, it's going to go down. Let's come back to GUI, the lab GUI. This should change from running to stopped in a moment. The reason we have to stop it is because we're going to need to fix this network connection. So let's click on the connection. We're going to delete it. Let's click on this. We're going to delete it. Now I'm going to add another network. This time I'm going to choose not bridge, but management cloud 0. I think this is going to be my option. Save that away. Here it is, tucked under. Now let's connect it. Drag and drop. So again, port 1 on our device gets connected to the network. Save it. And let's right click, start. This thing's going to boot up. Let's go back to the console. Here it's booting. And it's up. Admin. All right, so now if we say diagnose IP address list, oh, look now. Now we got a DHCP assigned address in the 10.6.9 range. This is what we needed. So now, well, we have two options. One, we should be able to get at the GUI, because if you recall when we did show sys interface port 1, we could see that ping, HTTPS, SSH, and HTTP are enabled on that port. So we should be able to point the browser at this address. Let's try that now, just to prove that it's now on the network. It's going to give us a warning because we're going HTTPS, but the certificate's not going to match. So here we go with the self-signed certificate. It's fine. And now, remember we changed the only username that exists is admin with admin password. So see, now we've logged in. Now we see this page about, hey, look, this thing's not licensed. What do you want to do? There's a couple of ways to proceed. So we said we could do it from the CLI. We said we could do it from right here, because I think, oh no, this is, yeah, if I go to eval, yeah, I should be able to put in an email address and password that I registered with Fortinet, and we can go this route. We could try the command line version. There's actually a third way. I think what we could do is well, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, let's not even talk about the third one. So the next option will be to try to do it from here. So yeah, maybe this is the easiest way. So I think I used, what did I do there? All right, that should be my password. Let's see what happens. Because at this point, we're assuming that the network or the network we're on has internet access or an SNAT out to the internet. Let's try it. License download successful. The VM will now restart. Okay, so it says it's rebooting. Now, the interesting thing is if we come back to the console, yeah, see, we see it's going down. It's going to come back up. This should just take a moment. Here we are. So I can log in here, admin. And now, okay, so if we do get system status, typing would work here. Let's go. Hey, look, now we have a valid license. And we're ready to go. But now recall that we have some limitations to this thing. You know, there's the encryption that's available for IPsec tunnels, for example, are very simplistic and nothing you want to use. You definitely don't want to have to rely on that security. So this thing shouldn't be on the internet. It's fine for testing purposes. And again, they mentioned that you can only have 3 firewall policies, which is a bit restrictive, and well, certainly will keep you from using this for production as well. And the same is true for routes. They say you only have 3 routes, which might be fine for your purpose because maybe you just have an inside network and an outside network where a default route pointing to the outside works just fine for testing purposes. So that's that. So, and then just to show now, if we go back to the GUI on this, so you remember last time we pointed at the GUI address and we got that prompt that it wasn't licensed. So now this time we had the login again. We'll choose the admin user. But this time, hey, we're proceeding now. So what do you want to do? For version 7.2, under this 7.2.11 version, you can now get, this thing will upgrade itself, which you may or may not want. I'm going to choose no, and I'll save and continue. Yes, I acknowledge that I don't want to get updates automatically. Then this dashboard setup, this is all standard first time through. I'm just going to say okay here. And as well, they want to play you a video about what's new in 7.2. I don't want to see this again, nor do I want to watch the video. Okay. Now, here we are. We can see we're running on an eval license, or if we click on this widget, come on. No, I'm not. Yeah, here we go. So using the eval license, and it shows you exactly what the limitations are here. But otherwise, we have a functioning Fortigate virtual that's running in EVE-NG. In fact, if we go to the network section, we can add a widget here for interface bandwidth. For example, let's put the port 1 on, add the widget, close, and now we'll see our, well, if we wait a little bit, we should see some traffic in and out of here. Because in fact, we're even pulling this GUI using the coming in and out of this interface. So we should see that there's some traffic on it. Let's take a look around. So again, system, well, let's just go to the dashboard status. Here we go again. This thing has its own serial number. It's running this version. We're off and running. So if we come back to, well, here we are. Now you have a running, but certainly limited function for the eval license. And again, if you needed something more, you needed the full features, for example, or you need more than one license, you're probably best off to contact Fortinet sales, or if you're already have an account and things with Fortinet, maybe you want to contact your account manager and say, hey, look, I have a proof of concept I want to do, and can I request some evaluation licensing? They'll be able to give you full featured evaluation licenses, although they'll be time limited for some amount of time. I mean, in the time frame of 60 days or less is what I'll say. All right. Well, let's leave it here for now, and maybe I'll have another chapter with some other details. We also went out and grabbed a version 7 Fortigate, virtual Fortigate version 7.4. So that came down as the zip file. So once again, we will extract it. Let's go right here with it. So now we have the 747 folder in here. Here's this FortiOS QCOW2. And remember, if we go to the documentation, we see for Fortinet firewalls, we need to give the QCOW2 file this file name. So let's come back and do that. I'm going to do it before I transfer it. So I'm going to change the name right here while it's on my machine in my downloads folder. Now, again, let's go back to the EVE-NG server itself. And we're going to go into this opt unet lab add-ons QMU. So here's the folder we created for the 7.2 version. Let's back up a step. We're going to create a folder for the new. And again, back to the documentation. It says that we need to, the name needs to start, the folder name needs to start with this, with Fortinet dash. So we will ensure that we have that here also. So we're going to make directory Fortinet dash, then I like to keep it along the lines of what was the name of the file that we're going to deal with. Let's back up a step. I'm just going to take this version information here and use that as my name because it has the build number and such. Yeah, there we go. So CD now to 7.4. We see we have nothing here. Once again, we're going to, if I'm on here, I should be able to, yeah, here we go. I can browse the, again, you can use your favorite secure copy SCP protocol file transfer, but in my case, this same SSH client also has the client for SCP. So I'm going to back up one folder. Here's the 747 folder I just created. Let's go in there. Now I'm going to come back to my downloads. 747, here's the file we want. I'm just going to grab it, dump it over here. Here goes the transfer. Done. Now if we list the directory again, okay, we see we have this file name, and it's the same as 7.2, but it's in a different folder. So that's how EVE-NG is going to know the difference between these images. Now that we have that done, we can go back to, let's let's go back to the lab view in EVE-NG GUI. So here's the lab that we have. This is the 7.2 version that's running. We're going to drop in a new one. So we're going to add an object, node, Forti, and we see the same old Fortigate is here. When we click on it this time, we're going to have more than one option. So we had 7.2 previously. Here's our 7.4.7 now. Let's choose 7.4.7. Once again, we can give it a name. I think I was doing something like this. Oh, 7.4 in our case. Then we're going to remember the limitations we have. We can only have one CPU, but we can have 2 gigs of RAM. Let's go that route. I'm going to go, I think it also said we can only have 3 Ethernets, so let's stick with 3. Save it. So here's our node 2. I'm still not sure why it's not giving it the name, but FG, maybe it doesn't like the dots. What if I just call it 7.4 like this? Maybe that's our problem. I think that is the problem. And then I can't edit this one at the moment because it's running. And once again, if I want this to have internet access, because I'm going to need to license this one as well. So while I'm at it, let's create another network. Well, we can leave the name the same. Now this time we know we want the management cloud 0. Save. Here it is. Let's just drag it like this. And we'll connect it while we're here. It's going to get connected to port 1. That's fine because then it looks just like the other one. And now again, we're going to need to know if we want to connect to it. We look down there in the bottom left. It says Telnet 10697 now on port 32770. So I guess I can start this in the meanwhile because we're not too worried about watching it come up. So let's just kick start here. We'll go create a session back here. So we can just duplicate this one. So duplicate session. Now I'm going to edit this. So we know what's different is still going to be the same remote host address. This is now going to be 770, and we'll change the name here to be Fortigate 7.4. Okay, let's connect. And there we are. So this is our initial startup prompt. So again, by Fortinet standards, the default password is admin with no password. So admin, and then password is just enter. Prompts me to put a new password in. I'm just going to make it admin for convenience. There it is. So if we go get sys status on this one, status, here we go again, where right out of the box, we now see this is a different version, but we see the license status is invalid because we haven't registered this for our eval. We're within specs on the VM resources, so that's fine. Now, as before, we can follow the instructions here about how to get a license. Now, I'm going to try and use the same email and password credentials again that I did the last time. Now, I expect that we're going to get denied because it'll say, hey, wait a minute, you've already got your 1FortiGate eval in operation. It's the 7.2. So, I think it won't let us do this. So let's try it anyway. See how it goes. Okay, we come back here. And don't forget, we did plug this thing to the net already. So if we do show system interface port 1, show system interface port 1. So port 1 by default is set for DHCP, so that's good because we bridged it to the EVE-NG outside network, which has DHCP on it. Let's see what we get for an address. Diagnose IP address list. Hey, we got the next one. So the 7.2 box had 144 as the last octet. This is 145. So why don't we try and get at it from the browser again? Let's give that a shot. So here's the last one. let's just duplicate this. We'll change this to 145. Because it's HTTPS, we're going to get the warning about the certificate, self-signed certificate. We're going to say, never mind, well, let's keep going. Here we are, admin, login, save it. So once again, it's not licensed or something else is wrong. Now we know we're going to have a license problem. This time, notice we have another option. There's a FortiFlex token option here, which we didn't see in the 7.2 version. I think this is new. This is another story, but the idea here is you can buy tokens or credits for licensing for virtual FortiGates and such. You basically buy a pool from Fortinet and then you use them as you go. So yeah, that's maybe a good point. That's another option in the 7.4 and higher versions, that you could buy a pool of licensing and just apply it as you need it. And it burns up, I don't know, it's some kind of time-based. It's based on, you buy a block. Let's say you buy 100. I don't know what the units are, but you buy 100 license or 100 credits. And then you take one FortiGate, you start it up, and let's say maybe it has one virtual CPU, it's low powered or whatever. Well, I don't know. Maybe it eats up 1 credit per day or 1 credit per hour, something like that. Now, you have that pool of 100, so maybe you start up 2 more FortiGates. One of them maybe has 2 vCPUs, and that one burns them up at 2 credits per hour or 2 credits per day. So you get a rough idea how that works. I haven't had that experience, but I'm aware that exists. We're going to keep on with this eval. And again, this full license scenario would be if you went out and bought a license, or you asked for an evaluation license from your Fortinet account team. You'd end up dropping a license file on here. And again, typically if it's an eval from the support people or from the account people, it's going to be time-based. So it'll be full-featured but limited to some time frame. Okay, so we're going to try this eval license again. I'm going to try and use the same email I used before. And the same credentials. So I'm presuming this isn't going to work because it's going to go check in and say, wait a minute, you've already got your eval license. Did it do anything? I think it did. Yeah, I think this is its way of just ignoring what we put in, saying this isn't going to work. Or you still haven't given me anything valid. So maybe what I'll do is maybe I'll go off and get another eval license. Well, I don't know. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But the idea is the same. You'll just need to go register. Maybe register a second account and get another shot at eval. Yeah, maybe we will just do that. All right, so I'll try that next and we'll come right back. All right, I've gone ahead and registered another account for Fortinet Support. Let's see how this goes. There we go. Okay, so it's going to reboot. Let's go back to the console and watch. Here we go, going down. So it's rebooting. Should be coming up any moment. Here it is. Admin. Now you'll notice in both cases, when it booted the first time, it just has like a generic host name. We never changed the host name. So this is the 7.2 version. But then after we registered it and it rebooted, it's come back up and we can see that by default it has the serial number as the host name, or the prompt is set that way. Looks like the same things happen now, because prior to it booting or rebooting, we had that same kind of Fortigate prompt, but now we have the actual serial number. And if we say get system status, hey, now we're in business. We got a valid license, one CPU, blah, blah, blah. So we're off and running. Now, if we come back to the GUI, should be able to log in there as well. This thing's still off, thinking it's waiting for it to come back, but we're just going to get ahead of it. Again, now we get a different warning because I think it probably updated the certificate during the installation. So here we go with our normal 7.4 first setup. Yeah, now this under 7.4, it's assuming you want to do some kind of FortiConverter migration, which we don't. I forget what happens here. I think if we choose later, it'll ask us to do this again some other time. I think if we sit here and wait 30 seconds or something, it'll give us a prompt where we can choose to not see this again. Yeah, here we go. So we don't intend to use this, so I'm going to say don't show it again and later. Now, just like we got on 7.2, in the 7.2.11 version, we now have this auto patch in 7.4 also. Again, well, I think they have this now because people were negligent in keeping their updates up to date. So now they're kind of forcing you to, hey, the default action is, hey, this thing's going to upgrade by itself going forward if you don't do anything. And again, you can choose, well, you know, if the new version comes out, wait 3 days and then do it in the middle of the night. Maybe that's useful. I'm going to choose, no, let's not do that. I don't want anything happening automatically. I will manage the updates. This isn't on the internet or anything, so we don't really have any security concerns. Let's keep going. Okay, I acknowledge I don't want you to automatically upgrade it. Same first time on the dashboard. We'll go with the default settings. Once again, the first time you see the new version, it wants to show you a video. I don't want to see that again. Let's go. So here we are. We have the eval license applied. So this is all legit. Now we have the 7.4.7 version on this one. Once again, if we go to networking, we can add a widget for the interface bandwidth. And we'll see, I'll show you the difference. There's a slight difference. I know we're a bit off topic if I go down this road, but it'll just take seconds to show you. So now we have this bandwidth graph running, and because we're managing it by this port, we should have some traffic to see. And never mind, the FortiGate itself has public name servers set. So if it tries to resolve any names or do anything, it's going to go out that same interface towards the internet. Let's go back to our 7.2 box, admin. But we can have a quick comparison of the one of the things that have changed on the dashboard and the network interfaces are these graphs. So you'll see this graph here. It basically shows you inbound and outbound are two different colors of green. And here we can kind of see the two colors of green, but it's not so readable, or you wonder, well, wait, are these stacked, or, you know, what's going on here exactly? So I guess enough people complained or said this is a bit confusing the way these graphs work, that they changed it in the 7.4 version, and you'll see these graphs are, you know, inbound shows you in one direction scaled, and outbound shows you scaled in the other. So these are definitely quite clear as to what the throughput is at any given time. and there's no stacking, or you don't have to try to figure out what the rate was. So this, I like this. This is a bit more readable. All right. So once again, you're off and running at this point with a completely up-to-date 7.4 version of Fortigate in EVE-NG. You have your 3 interfaces. We can make configurations with these, and we'll take that on in another video. But the purpose of this video was really to show you what's needed to get evaluation licensed FortiGates working in EVE-NG.